Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio with Brian Leonard and Preston, the sports cheetah. We're going to give him the gold medal or Purple Heart Award for coming in sick this week.
I complained too much this morning. I know I already told you guys. Last night I felt so terrible, and I woke up and just assumed I was still really sick, but I'm actually not too bad. So the video should turn out okay.
All right.
I don't have any excuses.
Last week you were sick. This week he's sick.
You're next, for sure.
I'm not coming in if I'm sick. I'll tell you that. I think of the people around me. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. We're going to preview, as we started last week, we're going to continue to do so and preview different conferences in college football and NFL. It's just right around the corner. We got preseason this weekend. Let's get things started. College football. Let's talk a little Pac-12 conference. Obviously, some shakeups in the Pac-12. We got teams like last year, Oregon, who's been a perennial team, in the Pac-12 every year. Defense last year was horrible. And what do you think, guys? Have any opinions on the Oregon Ducks this year?
I do. I've made a play on their under 8.5 wins, actually, personally. I think it was something like in at least half of their games they gave up like 41 points. They just had some games, if they were playing any offense that had any type of, any offense at all, I guess I should say, or any efficiency, they would just be giving up points, and they weren't able to keep up if Vernon Adams was off the field, and he was hurt for about half of their games. So Vernon Adams isn't coming back, and Mariota's obviously gone, so it'll be interesting to see. And their offensive coordinator, Scott Frost, went to Central Florida. So I think it's a team that might be kind of on the way down, unfortunately, for Oregon fans. And so 8.5 I thought was too high. I actually played an under on them. And I think we're also getting a little value just from some of the other teams that are taking a step back. I think a lot of people think Stanford's taking a step back, and Washington State are taking a step back. And so the Oregon number's still a little higher than it would have been, say, had Stanford maybe been, as popular as like Washington is this year or something.
Now, Oregon, as bad as that defense was last year, they made a change, which obviously they should. They brought in former Michigan head coach Brady Hoke to run the defense, but he's going to be installing a 4-3 defense, changing things up. I think bringing in a new defensive scheme, it's going to be better than it was last year, but I think early on in the season, there's going to be some growing pains there. You might find some nice spots to go ahead and, take some inflated numbers with the dog against Oregon, in my opinion.
Oregon suffered by their own success. Anytime somebody has as much success as Oregon has had, everybody else wants to copy them. And now they don't have those same advantages in conferences they had before. I got them third in this division. I got Stanford and Washington ahead of them. They're about 3 points behind those two. So I think Washington and Stanford are the teams to beat.
All right, well, that's a good segue. Let's go to Stanford. And as you said, Preston, some people think Stanford's going to take a step backwards. I'm one of them that I do think they are going to take a step back. And I know they bring back all-purpose running back Christian McCaffrey, who I thought should have been the Heisman winner last year. They got to address some issues on the offensive line, but more importantly, think about this for Stanford. I know we talk about a lot of system. It's more the system than the quarterback. But look at Stanford and what they've had. For the last 7 years, you've had either Andrew Luck or Kevin Hogan under center. This is going to be a different Stanford offense. In Christian McCaffrey, that's a great security blanket to have behind you. But if the passing game's not working early, teams are going to be keying on the run, and I don't think things are going to come as easy for Christian McCaffrey as they did last year. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I kind of disagree in general, because when I'm doing these preseason stuff, I'm mostly looking at numbers, and if there's nothing that points to a huge drop-off, then I'm not going to be too worried about it. So I played over 8 wins at -135. I know there's some plus money 8.5s, which is a tougher play to make. But if you have access to an 8, I think over is a good play. I'm kind of down on the Washington hype as part of it. I think I'm down on Oregon, which we already talked about a little bit. And Keller Christ is the name of the quarterback that's stepping in, and I think he's a sophomore. And so that is, you're right. That's the huge question mark for Stanford. But it's not like Hogan was an extreme talent. Andrew Luck obviously was. And Hogan started out for 4 years, and he did an okay job. And Really didn't do anything spectacular, though, and I think kind of underachieved in general. I think people expected him to maybe be more like Andrew Luck, and he never was. But their team still were successful. They're going to rely on defense, which should be actually better this upcoming season. And then McCaffrey's back, obviously, with some other weapons. So I'm actually higher on Stanford maybe the most this year. And, we'll see what happens with Washington, but it ultimately could just come down to how well they do.
Yeah, Washington's the team that's getting all the hype from a lot of, that's the in vogue, in style team to take this year. Washington, do you have any thoughts on them, Brian?
Yeah, that's the teams I want to avoid. Is one of the everybody's talking about them. I'm with you. I like the Stanford team. You've got an excellent coach, and you've got one of the best running games in college football. That makes up a lot for your quarterback not having experience. Washington should be a very good team, but just 2 years ago, they came into last year and they didn't have any returning starters coming back, and they overachieved. It's tough to overachieve 2 years in a row. I think they're going to be a very good team. I just think we can make some money going against them.
A lot of the hype with them, too, is that they did score a lot of points at the end of the season whenever, they had the other quarterback come in when Jake Browning come in. And you're assuming that he's going to take that next step. That's the natural thought process. We've seen a lot of times these guys, as true freshmen, don't really take a big jump, in their sophomore year. So they're going to go as far as he takes them, and that's going to be the key, I think, to Washington. We got to wrap this one up. The two teams in the other division, basically what it is every year, it's USC and UCLA. Do you guys like either one of those two that you like, or do you have somebody you like even better?
I don't. If you guys that got the preview or the guide, no, I didn't make any play at all in that South Division. And in general, for season win totals, there's a really bad Arizona State line that's kind of moved since we actually released the guide. But that's the only team I think at 5.5 wins was too low. And other than that, no division future or conference future.
Yeah, I've got UCLA and USC rated even in that conference. Arizona, I think, is the worst in the conference, but you can put Arizona State, Colorado, and Arizona. They're all within 3 or 4 points of each other.
Yeah, USC is going to have a strong offensive line this year, which is going to help. The running game is going to be good, but they also have a question at quarterback replacing Cody Kessler. So, a lot of big question marks in the Pac-12. I don't think that there's a real dominant team. I think this will be, a fun year to watch.
Definitely.
The Pac-12.
I don't think any team makes the Final Four.
Okay. All right, guys. Hey, don't forget, every weekend at Wager Talk, it's weekend all access. It's just $69. Pick your favorite capper. You get all of his plays Thursday through Monday for $69. Preseason football starts this weekend, so now you'll get both baseball and football plays. Check it out at wagertalk.com. We'll be back with more here at Wager Talk.